It sure seems like Aubrey Bloom may have started a streak of his own for the second week in a row. I'm joined by the host of Aggie Nation and writer for the Bryan College Station Eagle. Aubrey, thanks for coming on.
Hey, after a big win like that, wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
It's easier to come on when you get a big win like that, am I right?
The fans are certainly more likely to talk about it. So.
Well, and they are, and that's a great point. If you want to join the conversation, you can tweet at us. Use the hashtag AggieOT. No spaces in that hashtag, so hopefully we'll hear from them as well. Now, speaking of streaks, the Aggies involved started their day winners of 3 consecutive games, but it's A&M that notches that 4th win as they put Tennessee, dropped them in the standings. What are your impressions of what you saw Saturday in Knoxville?
Well, this was a real impressive game for A&M. We talked about them eking out wins over Mississippi State. The game was kind of a really ugly game. The game against LSU wasn't particularly pretty. They were down 13 points before coming back, and then they were trailing Missouri the other night. So again, they won. They had 3 games in a row, but it hadn't really looked good. Now today's game was a little bit nerve-wracking if you're an A&M fan. Are they going to give up that lead? How's it going to go? But for the most part, A&M really handled this game, especially in the second half.
Now, we saw it earlier today. Tennessee shot an abysmal percentage for part of the game. Kentucky also did the same thing. Do I dare say A&M's a great defensive team, or maybe just, both those teams struggled on
They are a good defensive team. They're not an in-your-face, let's get steals, get up the court kind of defense like you see a Duke team would be. But they do make you take a lot of bad shots, and that's why those teams miss a lot of those shots. Tennessee had to take a whole lot of three-pointers today. They made quite a few of them there at the end, but for the most part, they had the guys, A&M forced the guys that they wanted to shoot where A&M wanted them to shoot from. So again, it's not really an in-your-face, but certainly forced a lot of bad shots.
Scouting reports, as Jordan Green always likes to say, those scouting reports. Now, some believe that A&M goes as Daniel House goes. Others say Jalen Jones is the top player. You said a week ago, I do remember, Alex Caruso may be the best player on the team. Dare I say they have a big 3 maybe, or am I a little too ahead of myself?
No, I think they do. It's certainly Caruso, House, and Jones. These are your guys that do it all. And if one of them doesn't do something right, you need another one to step up and do it. Today, Alex Caruso wasn't passing the ball well, but Daniel House did. I think he had 6 assists on today's game. Sometimes Daniel House isn't shooting particularly well. He struggled earlier today, and Jalen Jones picked up the slack there, and so did Caruso. You don't see Caruso shoot a lot of threes, but he had 3 of them today. So those 3 work together and have been working together better and better as the season's gone on. When one of them struggles at something, the other 2 kind of pick that one up, and those 3 are kind of your core right now.
We're looking at back-to-back road victories now for the Aggies. Which do you think's the bigger win, this week or maybe last week in Baton Rouge, getting over that hump?
Well, I think LSU's a better team than Tennessee, but I think today's win was probably bigger just because of that momentum. Now you said 4 games in a row. The first time they've done that in the SEC under Billy Kennedy. The first time they've done it since the tournament year in 2011, I believe. So, even though LSU's probably a better team, getting over that hump, beating LSU was big. This one was bigger because it came second.
When we talked a week ago, I said, describe for fans this team in one word. You said confused. A week later, do you still feel that way?
At this point, I'll say gritty. They find a way to grind things out. The first half today, they were awful shooting, especially the deep ball. Now, they had a pretty good percentage. They got a lot of open looks in the paint. They dominated in the paint today. But your guys that normally make shots, Peyton Allen's, your Daniel Houses, they were horrible from beyond the arc, but yet they still kept coming. And in the second half, some of those shots fell, and we saw A&M open up a huge lead. So a team that's starting to figure out who they are, and that's that they just have to keep going. Eventually, the shots are going to fall, and that's what we've seen. So I would go with gritty now.
Do you feel like Kentucky is really going to be that game that everybody looks back as the season ends and says, wow, that was really when they figured it out? Maybe not because they played great, but maybe Kentucky struggled a little more than they should have. Did they give A&M the life that maybe they shouldn't have?
I think not necessarily, because you're going to look back at the Kentucky game. Every time A&M wins, as we get closer and closer to the NCAA tournament, it's going to be, man, what if they would have beaten Kentucky? So I don't know if it is from that standpoint. However, it was a huge game for Daniel House. And I think that's where the biggest key is. He showed that even without Jalen Jones, he could take the team on his back and keep them in a game. He did it in that game. And ever since then, you've seen him be a different player.
Now, there are some Aggies who have been a little bit down on Billy Kennedy. I'm not going to say all. I'm not going to say most. There are some. Is he now starting to build confidence? Can fans look to him and say, you know what, he is the coach that's going to lead this team to where we want him to go?
I think he's picking up a little bit of steam. I still think that there's things that fans would like to see more. For example, today they could have put that game away a lot earlier. They were up, I think, 16 or 17 at one point. Tennessee came all the way back, put it to 5. If you are going to get ultimate confidence, if these people are going to get on the Kennedy bandwagon and start driving it up Texas Avenue here, they want to see them put away teams like that. They don't want to see them, give up early leads to teams like Missouri, Mississippi State, and games like that. But people are starting to come around. We're now seeing the identity of this team. They're a defensive team. Their offense has gotten a lot better. They're a high efficiency offense, even though they're not really a high tempo offense. And I think you've seen people buy into it a little bit more. If they go beat Auburn, I think that's the game on Tuesday. If they come back with that win, 5 straight, coming back home next Saturday to play Vandy, I think you'll see a pretty big crowd, and that's going to show you that I think the fans are starting to buy in a little bit.
Consistency is always the question mark with this team. I don't want to put you on the spot, but they have to be favored playing Auburn, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I would think so. Auburn's a little tough at home, but again, their last home game, they lost to Mississippi State, so how good are they really? But yeah, that's a team that is tough at home. When you look at A&M's schedule, I don't know that there's a game left where you say A&M definitely won't win that game. I would have said 2 of the more difficult games were at LSU and at Tennessee, and now they've won those. So there are some tough games left. I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated or anything crazy, but now there's no more unwinnable games on the schedule.
Now I will put you on the spot. 12 games left, 6 at home, 6 on the road, no ranked teams, all in conference. Are we looking at an NCAA tournament team, or does it all have to really play out?
I think so, but there's still a few things that have to play out, and A&M still needs things to fall their way outside of things they can control. They need some help from conferences like the Big 12. They don't need 9 Big 12 teams posting impressive wins. And the other thing, they need some help in the SEC. A&M, because of their lack of non-conference wins, this is a problem a lot of SEC teams have. They need to create a gap between them and the middle of the SEC. Or, right now they're number 2 in the SEC, but they're tied with 2 teams, and then there's like 5 teams right behind them. They need to be in an upper tier so that when they get the resumes at the end of the year, the committee can look at it and say, hey, A&M is clearly one of the best, let's say 4 teams in the SEC. And if that's the case, they get in. But again, they can't control all of that. They need teams to rise and fall, and they need a breakaway pack to be in.
So we'll wait on the brackets for now.
Yeah, don't book your rooms quite yet.
But it's possible. All right. Aubrey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here.
We'll throw it over to Lee.
Thanks, guys. And be sure to catch Aubrey weekdays from 2 to 4 on AM 1150.